fireworks, Mariah Carey, and yes, a dancing stovetop espresso maker. The Winter Olympics are kicked off in Italy with all that and more. 3.5 hours, 92 countries, 1,400 costumes, and a celebration that stretched across Milan, Livingo, Dazzo, and Cortina, which for the first time ever lit a second Olympic cauldron. From winged cupids to psychics among Rome, to giant opera heads modeled in Armani, and of course Mariah Carey singing in Italian. This was the night of spectacle and delight. Andrea Bocelli brought chills. Laura Pausini belted the anthem, and the Olympic rings shone bright above a crowd thrilled by pageantry and artistry alike. The athletes were energized, the crowd had favorites, and politics largely stayed at the edges, allowing the focus to remain on unity, pride, and the pursuit of excellence. The Winter Games are officially underway, but in just 48 hours from now, the shift focuses from ice and snow to turf and touchdown. Super Bowl 60 is nearly here, ready to light up Levi Stadium with its own spectacle and drama. And to help us break it down, the one, the only, our NFL analyst, Albert Lanier. And Albert, happy Super Bowl weekend. Happy Winter Games to you. I know you're not going to talk snow and ice. Let's talk football, gridiron stuff. Who should we be watching for on Sunday?
Well, I'd like to begin in the spirit of the Olympics by saying, let the best team win. Yeah, I tried. That just doesn't work. Tom Brady, I tried it out. Just not effective coming from me. But I will say this. I think that in the spirit of the games that are coming up, or the Super Bowl, it's an interesting Super Bowl thus far in that, and this is something that I've mentioned in my own NFL analysis during the 2025 season, is that you don't have a dynastic team like the Kansas City Chiefs, not only in the playoffs, but in the Super Bowl. And you have a meeting of two teams with two quarterbacks that have not been there as QB1s. And you also have a meeting of two teams that have been to the Super Bowl and won it, but with different quarterbacks and different configurations, defensively and offensively. And so from a media perspective, from some of the media that I've seen, I'm not in sunny Santa Clara. I'm just in sunny Honolulu. Just as sunny.
Yeah.
But what I've seen is, what's interesting to me is the fact that because there isn't a dynastic team in the Super Bowl, there doesn't really seem to be a lot to talk about. I mean, yes, you could talk about how effective the Seahawks have been this season with Sam Darnold as their quarterback, how good he's been at times. And you can also bring up old Sam versus new Sam. Old Sam in terms of his past, especially with the Minnesota Vikings and what happened to them when they played the Rams, when they went into the end of the season and then into the playoffs. And you could also talk about Drake May. And you could talk about Drake May from the perspective of, being in his second year and being a quarterback that's never been to the Super Bowl before, and will he be able to shine on, as they like to say, the biggest stage in the world? Well, they're going to have to share that biggest stage with the Winter Olympics in regards to sports, because that's also the biggest stage in the world, really. So I'd say it's the co-equal biggest stages in the world at this point. But I don't know how the NFL will think what they'll say about that. Or maybe they won't they won't be bothered by it because from all the talk, the NFL wants a lot of games played across the pond,
Yeah.
not only next season, but in the subsequent seasons. I hear the talk is like 16. They want 16 games at one point, overseas games, which, well, I just like to say to the NFL union, players union, you guys got your work cut out for you. That's what I would say on that note. But yeah, it's an interesting Super Bowl in terms of the fact that you have two teams in what I call a pure pristine playoff season. No dynastic teams like the Kansas City Chiefs, and also no stars. And that's been remarked about by some of the commentators on podcast and TV and other show and other kinds of programs. You don't have a lot of stars in this game. In fact, you don't have any stars in this game. So it's kind of a meeting of two very good teams this year. And it's ideally what I think the NFL Super Bowl should be. It shouldn't be a dynasty going for their fifth ring or their fifth win. It shouldn't be a team trying to three-peat. It should be teams that either haven't been there before or haven't been there in a while. And so for me, this is the way it should be in regards to the Super Bowl. I think the Super Bowl, I said New England and Seattle were likely to be the teams in the Super Bowl. I thought Seattle was one of the best teams in the NFC along with the Rams. I thought New England was one of the best teams in the AFC along with Denver. So I guess what I have brought out or what I was looking for has come to pass in the Super Bowl this year.
Good. I want to focus on defenses first. Both defenses are elite. How do you see the Seattle defense and the Patriots defense's strengths influencing the early game?
Excellent question. Primarily because that is what I'm focused on in regards to Super Bowl. I'm not looking at offenses in the Super Bowl. Most people are. They want to know where Sam Darnold is, old Sam or new Sam. They want to know if Drake May can throw higher than 60% of his passes, complete over 60% of his passes. I'm not interested in any of that. Some people might find that refreshing. Some people might find that different. I'm focused, as I've said earlier, after the conference games, after the conference championships, on the defenses. Seattle is an excellent defense. They're known for pressuring quarterbacks primarily. You also have New England, and I've said this about the Patriots. Their defense is playing really well in the playoffs. This is a defense that's gotten better in the postseason. I don't think they're anywhere near this good in the regular season as they are in the postseason, especially with the turnover ratio here. And so I think what's important in this game, and this is the way that I'm looking at it and I'm assessing it, I believe this is going to be a contest of two defenses. And also, along with this, two offensive lines. There's a lot of talk about how both the Seattle and the New England offensive lines aren't that great. Well, they're going to have to play great because Seattle is going to probably put pressure. If they go with a front four, they'll probably put pressure on their front four unless they go with a five. And I think they're going to try to, I assume, not only go for sacks, but strip sacks. They're going to try to prevent Drake May from making the kinds of plays that he's made, even in the playoffs, in the times that he's made touchdown plays. So I think the key with the defense is going to be, will the defense not so much put pressure on Drake May, but where their backfield defense will be? That's important because what I'm thinking about in regards to New England's offense is, will their offense be able to go down the field? Because I think in order for New England to possibly win, they got to try to do midfield to deep passes. They got to try to open up the field. If they can do that, I think they'll have a great deal of success offensively. If they can't, because of that backfield of the Seattle Seahawks, then it's going to be a problem in the Super Bowl. I believe that the backfield and the midfield will be important for Seattle. I think they'll be rushing the passer, of course, and that'll be important. But unless they will completely shred that offensive line of New England and get five sacks or more, I don't know. I think the important aspect will not be the upfront pressure on the line. I think it'll be backfield, and that's what I'm looking at. I always consider that important for defenses. It's easy to talk about the front four, front five, and of course, rushing is important. Pass rush is important. But one thing I noticed about Drake May is he was able to get off passes at times when he's under duress. I saw that in the game that he played against the Bills. I mean, you have players trying to get him down, and he's able to get passes off and hit his targets in terms of his receivers. In regards to New England's defense, they have got to try to make life hell for Sam Darnold. They got to try to turn him into old Sam. They've got to try to do that. And again, I think what they have to do is concentrate backfield. I know this sounds a little bit repetitive, but look at the success that New England's backfield had in the game against the Houston Texans. They were able to get turnovers. They were opportunistic. Those defenders were ready with those tip balls that C.J. Stroud threw, or ended up throwing.
Right.
And that's what they've got to be able to do. If they're in New England, that defense in New England has got to get turnovers. And if they don't get turnovers, then they've got to at least get a couple of sacks. But I would say they should concentrate on turnovers if they want to be able to work, if they want to be able to have a chance to win. I think that's going to be important. So to me, this is going to be a contest of whether how well these two defenses play. And I think it's going to be a tale of two defenses. Most people are looking at offenses because the NFL is an offensive-oriented league. But I look at the defenses here because I've been paying attention to them. And I think the success of either team or who wins the Super Bowl is which defense did the best job. Which defense was able to get hits, tackle effectively, which defense was able to get at least a couple turnovers and get sacks. More importantly, the defense was able to create plays. And I think Seattle also has to get at least one or two turnovers and make something out of that. So I see it as a contest between two defenses. Of course, it'll depend on whether this becomes a defensive contest or an offensive contest. We're not quite sure yet. If it's a defensive contest, it could be both defenses play well enough that there aren't a lot of points on the board. So we'll see what happens.
Okay. Want to talk about Drake May. He's been successful all season, but he has struggled at times with turnovers under pressure, and Seattle blitzes as well as anyone. How does he mitigate that?
You got to get the ball off as fast as possible. So you don't want to stay in the pocket too long in terms of waiting for receivers. What New England needs to do with May is make sure he's able to run out of the pocket. That's what they need to be able to do. They need to be able to get Drake May out of that pocket and running like they did in the AFC Championship game. Now, it will depend on when they want to do that. They may want to do that in the first half, or they may go with it in the second. If I were New England, I would go with it in the second half. And the main thing is, I would also go with a run. I would also have a firm run option, a run offense, a run part of that offensive plan. Ramondre Stevenson. I wouldn't be surprised if Drake May gives the ball off to Ramondre Stevenson early in this game and they try to establish a run. If New England's able to run the ball effectively against Seattle, that will change things for the offense and it will change things for Drake May. Again, a lot of people are sort of critical of Drake May because he hasn't thrown as many touchdowns in the playoffs. They say, well, he didn't go beyond 60% of his passes in terms of completions and effectiveness. And so the main thing, and the point that I've said about Drake May is this. Drake May doesn't need to throw over 300 yards. I've said this on when I was doing my NFL analysis during the season. I've said this before. Often Drake May makes 200 yards or doesn't get over 200 yards. He doesn't need to win games. You make the right throws at the right time. That's what I think he needs to do. If this is a close game, you need to be able to get to your wideouts and you need to be able to hit them for at least a touchdown. He's been able to do that. He's been able to do that in the games. I mean, he only had one touchdown in that game. Only one touchdown in that game against Denver. But again, he's been able to score in the playoffs. Yeah, he may not have a whole bunch of touchdowns, but what matters is you're able to get a touchdown. You know, New England's a team that seems to win depending on their adaptation to the elements. Their literal elements of weather in the Denver game. You also had some elements of weather in the Houston game, but also the elements of dealing with the top-rated defense and the defense of the New England Patriots being opportunistic. So for Drake May, again, what people have to understand is this guy does not need to throw a bunch of touchdowns. He does not need to throw for 400 yards to be effective. He doesn't need to.
How do the Patriots defense stop a major weapon in my X factor, JSN?
Good point. The question is going to be, are they going to go with man or are they going to go with zone defense, right? I think it's going to be hard dealing with Jackson Smith-Jigba. It's going to be hard because he's such an effective wideout. I think the main thing with JSN is this. Let me try a little Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick, when he was defensive coordinator with the New York Giants, when they played the Bills, said, okay, let Thurman Thomas run. Let's not focus too much on stopping the run and all that. We want to stop the pass. In the case of JSN, I would say, don't focus too much on stopping him from getting passes. Limit where he gets the passes. In other words, if he gets a 5 to 10 yard pass, tackle him there. Tackling will be important when it comes to JSN. The main thing with him is you don't want the deep ball threat. If he gets a 30, 40 yard, if he's hit on a target 30, 40 yards, that'll be a problem. Reduce him to less than 20 yards, tackle him effectively, and limit his yardage after the catch. That's the way to stop JSN. You don't want to stop him from getting the ball. I don't know that you'll be able to do that. Just stop the deep pass threat. If you're able to stop the deep pass threat, you limit him to smaller yardage, I think you'll find a way to contain him or at least limit him to some extent. That's the main thing.
Okay. You and I both, we think this is going to be a tight, low-scoring game. Fingers crossed it's not Patriots-Rams back a few years back when I think it was like 6-3. Hopefully it's not that. But so in these tight defensive games, clock management, fourth down decisions, all that, special teams, all that matters. What specific decision do you think could swing this game?
Well, you mentioned special teams. I think decisions like whether to kick on third down or fourth down, that may be a decision. How you use the clock when you have a kick coming up or possible kick coming up for a field goal, that may be very important. Time management is very important and is crucial. I've been saying this all throughout this season that I've been analyzing the NFL, and I've said it in the past to my friends when I wasn't an NFL analyst. What you've got to be able to control the clock. There was an old game show, I believe, called Beat the Clock.
Yeah.
That's what you have to do to win. You have to beat the clock. And the way you beat the clock is by controlling the clock. And that's what you have to do. And so let me just say something else also about special teams. I think special teams will be very important in this game. I've seen what Seattle special teams can do. Their punter did an excellent job limiting the Rams in regards to his punts. They were landing around the 10-yard line or so. If their punter, meaning Seattle's punter, can kick and pin the New England Patriots back either at the 10 or maybe at the 5, that's going to be huge for the Seattle Seahawks. And also kicking. Remember that the Patriots missed a kick in that game versus Denver. They made a kick, successful field goal, but they missed a kick. So I think that's very important as well. Very important as well.
Okay.
And, special teams might be very important in this game.
Okay. Gonna go off a little segue here, a little off game topics, but still in the realm of the Super Bowl. Thoughts on Bad Bunny?
I have to be brutally honest. I don't know much about Bad Bunny.
Okay.
The only bunnies I know come from a book of literature like Watership Down.
Okay. No Bugs Bunny.
Bugs Bunny.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's Bugs Bunny is a bunny that I like.
Yes.
I don't know much about Bad Bunny because I don't concern myself with halftime shows.
That's fair.
Unless halftime shows become disasters like Janet Jackson.
Yeah.
Then okay. If no nudity is involved.
Very good. Okay. Very good. You mentioned the NFL Players Union, Coaches Union. Roger Goodell at the press conference, I called it the State of the Union. He keeps pushing this 18-game season that, of course, would move the Super Bowl to the Sunday before President's Day. Everybody would get the day off. Players, coaches, all that saying, no, we don't want that. We don't want that. Why? Well, I understand why they don't want it. I'm not going to ask you that. I want to ask you, why can't we just move the game to Saturday?
That's interesting. Well, Sunday is traditionally the largest day in regards to television.
Yeah. No,
in regards to network television, it's the largest day. It's it's the day with the largest viewers.
Yep.
Also, it's normally a day off for most people. There may be some people who have to work. Very unfortunate if you have to work on Sundays.
Yes.
Very rare. I was a print journalist for, what was that? For over 20 years. So I rarely worked on a Sunday. But I think I don't think Saturday would work for the NFL.
Okay.
I think they want Sunday, which is the biggest day in not only network television, but television in general. And I think it's beginning of the week.
Yep.
So it's a better day strategically for the NFL.
Okay. Your thoughts on an 18-game season?
I think it's inevitable, sadly. I think it'll be an 18-game because you already have 17 games with 18 weeks.
Right.
So you'll probably get 18 games in 19 weeks.
Yeah. Everybody will just get 2 buys, or.
I will say that's right.
Yeah.
You just read my mind. I'm actually advocating for 2 bye weeks.
Okay.
So I think there should be 20 weeks if you're going to go with 18, and have 2 bye weeks for every team.
Okay.
Now I don't know how that's going to work out schedule-wise for the people who construct the schedule every year for the NFL, but that's what I think people want to take my notion and run with it. Talk to Roger Goodell with it. Talk to the owners and have them talk about it at the owners meeting and the other conclaves that are held in the NFL. Be my guest. If you're going to have 18 weeks, then give the teams and the players 2 bye weeks. I think that's only fair.
Who wins Super Bowl 60 and why?
Well, I should give the Tom Brady answer first, and then go into my answer. So I believe that if New England is down by less than 10 points going into the third and fourth quarter, then they will most likely win the Super Bowl.
Wow.
However, if Seattle is up over 10 points going into the third and fourth quarter, then they will most likely win the Super Bowl. And so that's the Tom Brady answer.
Yes.
In terms of my answer, who will win Super Bowl 60? I believe it will be the Seattle Seahawks. and I believe that Seattle Seahawks will probably win at the end of this Super Bowl. I think that they will more than likely get a field goal, and it may go down to a field goal, or it may go down to a touchdown. The only thing I don't predict normally, but I will say this. I wouldn't be surprised. I'll leave with I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised if there is a touchdown on a punt return. I wouldn't be surprised if there are 2 turnovers, at least one on each side.
Okay.
One for Seattle and one for New England. I wouldn't be surprised if there is a mishap in regards to special team, either kicking a field goal or on getting a punt. I wouldn't be surprised if there are a good number of sacks on either side by either defense. And at the end of the day, I wouldn't be surprised if the Seattle Seahawks beat the New England Patriots. I'll even quote a number. I don't think this will be the number, but I'll quote it. 21-17.
And everyone who has those squares are saying fingers crossed in some office poll around the country.
Right.
Yeah. I'll make a pick. Why not? I don't usually do it, but I'll make a pick since it is the Super Bowl. I've got Seattle. I just think the weapons are too much, and that. I won't give a score. I won't do that. But I will say this: if Seattle wins, JSN is the MVP. How about that one?
Interesting pick. I like that. See, I like that. See, I'm all for players who aren't quarterbacks getting the MVP because it's usually the quarterback. So I think your choice of MVP is an excellent one. I like that one. So we'll see what happens. Again, people have heard what I've said.
Yep.
And again, I'm not in the prediction business, but I wouldn't be surprised if any of the things I just mentioned happen. And yes, I am taking Seattle, and I've given you score 21-17. Do I think that'll be the final score? I doubt it, but who knows?
Who knows? Real quick, you have a busy off season. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, I'm on a media tour right now. I'm being interviewed about the Oscars because I'm a former film reviewer and currently a film analyst. So I've been doing interviews thus far talking about this year's Oscars and award season in general. So yeah, I've been busy doing that this week. Just started this week, starts February 2nd, and my tour will end, I believe, at the Oscars. So around, which is February 15th, Sunday, February 15th on ABC with Conan O'Brien.
Ooh. How special is that? All eyes. I'm rooting for Marty Supreme. That's all I can say.
Interesting. I've seen Marty Supreme.
It's a great movie, isn't it?
It's an interesting film.
Yes.
It's an interesting film. Very interesting film. Yeah, it's not your typical sports movie.
No.
It's not a pure sports movie. That's what I would tell people. Not a pure sports movie. Very interesting film.
He is Albert Lanier. Always a pleasure to sit down and talk with you football. I'm going to miss this. We'll have to get together in the off season and do something. Always a pleasure, though, to talk to you. And don't go anywhere because we've got more